Hello everyone. It's Courageous Carla again. If you are new here, hello and welcome. If you are a subscriber, I truly appreciate your coming back to see your girl. And there's a nice little video I've added for you wonderful subscribers and my true appreciation for you. Well, according to the title of this video, this is going to be about the Netflix series Inventing Anna, a disabilities analysis. I would just like to introduce myself and give a little bit more context to the topic of this video. My name is Courageous Carla, and this channel is me being a disabilities educator and influencer. The topic of today's video again is about Inventing Anna, and I'm going to be talking about the depth to her actual character, some historical relevance, and how this impacts the disabled community in no particular order. I would like to say that this video is going to mainly be about mental disabilities or those invisible disabilities, the context in terms of the actual relationship. So mental health will be discussed at some length. So I just would like to give that warning, and there will be trigger warnings in this video as well. But I promise you, viewer, I will be a verbal prima ballerina, handling these topics with grace and making it seem effortless, doing some verbal plies and pirouettes for your viewing and listening pleasure. All right, let the show begin. I am going to be asking a few questions and not giving an answer to these questions in relation to this character and this series, but a little bit of background on the series. Inventing Anna is a show about this supposed fake heiress, German fake heiress, that managed to commit financial fraud and was brought to justice with all types of characters and storylines and plot lines interwoven in her grand scheme of things. All right. Question number 1 for you, viewer. Was Anna Delvey a self-harmer or a person with suicidal ideations? I am going to give a little bit of an answer, and it is implied in many episodes within the series. I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but I just would like to say that Miss Delvey in this series, the character mentions or infers self-harm verbally to those around her in at least 2 episodes. So I am not a mental health expert by training or education, so I'm definitely going to leave the actual diagnosis and in-depth analysis based on education and training to the professionals. But I would like to say that if you think of self-harm or any statements that are made or inferred, when should we take action, or when are we supposed to, is there a line we're supposed to know about when to act or when to be proactive when these comments are made versus when to, how to know when to take the person seriously. In this series, this person, Anna, is taken seriously by some and not taken seriously by others. So I'm not going to say that it was good or bad writing, but I would like to say in the real world to always err on the side of caution and try and at least offer an outlet for communication if someone is making those inferences of self-harm. Please, viewer, at least follow up with that person and let them know you're there and you would like to help in any way you can and report these behaviors to friends, family, loved ones, and professionals if need be. All right, next. Was Anna Delvey an alcoholic or an addict to alcohol? And the answer is maybe. In this series, she's diagnosed and is actually referred for an alcohol treatment center by a medical professional. So she was diagnosed, but spoiler alert, it was discovered that she could have faked the entire story she mentioned to the medical professional while she was in an ER after an incident of being found by some hotel staff. She was found on the floor, but the truth of the matter is she staged the whole thing. And I gave that spoiler alert away to justify why I said that maybe she was an alcoholic. In the show, she was called out for it and mentioned, or actually called a liar and accused of not being totally truthful and playing the system, basically. But I would just like to pose questions and let's really think about what happened. And this person may not have been 100% truthful and staged this incident, yes. But did that mean she was crying out for help any less? Clearly she was crying out for help. So I'm glad to see her being referred appropriately that by the medical staff based on what she said. So 2 thumbs up for that scene in the writing. All right. Question number 3. Was Anna a medical fraudster? And that answer would be a yes. In the show, Anna is shown as feigning an entire scenario like a suicide attempt or a self-harm attempt, and her reasoning she explains to the emergency room medical professional that a story is basically conjured up as it being as a result of alcoholism. So she is appropriately referred to a medical rehab facility. I just mentioned this, but I'm going to say it again. This seems like it was all a plan to basically stay in the country. So a sub question is, was she just a holder of an expiring visa trapped in the inflexible timeline rules of the immigration laws? And I could say a big maybe, a mini yes to that. She admits several times throughout the series that she is running out of time and that she's under a very limited time schedule. And really putting it into perspective in terms of ultimately the visa, yeah, she was running out of time. So I understand, and sort of picking up on those little Easter eggs given throughout the show, it's like, oh, it really does all come together. Another sub question: does the end justify the means? Or does that mean we should excuse potentially the medical fraud that occurred? And to that, I would say a resounding no. That is the ultimate act of disrespect, fraud, and mischievous behavior. In that instance, the end could not justify the means. Addiction is definitely a condition, a disease that many people are victim to, and I would say develop different addictions through no real fault of their own. And to see, I guess, determine that as one of the loopholes and take advantage of those loopholes is certainly not something I would ever encourage. And to that, I would say the highest shame on you. And let's relate this to, again, the topic. Let's relate this to the disabled community. And you may be asking yourself, well, what's the harm? There's so many scams out here. What's one more? Who was she hurting? Any thoughts along those lines? To that, I would say a lot is wrong with it, and that is that you are correct, or that is a semi-fair mentality, but not a very empathetic one or a full pictured viewpoint. The medical community in particular trying to access benefits, or in this instance, immigration laws are definitely roads that one could lead that will take you down the deepest rabbit hole of paperwork you will ever go through in your life. And these rules are instituted for a reason. And also, there are so many people out there that would love those opportunities who unfortunately are not able to get them, especially first attempt or first try. Some would argue because of the laws and the time schedules that are tied up with legal investigations and proving certain disabilities or reasonings. So by quintessentially defrauding the system in that way, it only fuels the fire of people thinking that many that are awarded benefits or awarded visas may not deserve it and may not have to do that much, or maybe faking it. By doing it, you're quintessentially feeding or really justifying the naysayers, haters, if you will. So please, if you or someone you know is committing medical fraud, there will be some contact information listed on the screen and in the description. To my next point, was Anna Delvey inventive? Were these schemes and ploys? Was she new? Was this something we have never seen before? And that answer is a big fat no, not even close. Reinventing oneself, some would say, is a part of life, happens constantly. Changing oneself to fit into society, a certain society, especially one that is foreign to you, certainly not new by any stretch of the imagination. And some examples will be on the screen as I delve further into this question or the answers to this question. There have been people that have pretended to be someone that has either gone missing or whose identity had been murky or in question, or their fate was never fully identified, primarily amongst nobility or the royal families throughout Europe, at least. Many quote unquote pretenders. Okay, let's go to financial fraud or financial untruths, mysteries. Was Anna inventive on that end in terms of faking documents and paperwork and causing a financial scandal? And to that, the answer is a big fat no as well. And again, there will be examples on the screen to prove my point. Okay, fun little facts about that show. There were several truths to that show, and let's talk about some of them. Little fun facts. Number one, the building that Anna wanted to be leased for her business, the Anna Delvey Foundation or ADF, 281 Park is actually a place in New York that is owned by a Swedish organization. So that is truth, and that is a building. Another little fun history fact, that building the architecture was American, and it was on what was called Charity Row of New York when it was first built. And Charity Row was many gatherings of buildings that were used for medical charity, like the Cerebral Palsy Foundation and a school for the blind. This is back in a couple hundred years ago, but yeah, that building was a part of Charity Row. Next fun little fact, Anna Delvey really did go sneak into a party with Warren Buffett. So that was in the show, and that was something that actually happened. All right, we are almost done. I would just like to round this up with a little conclusion, nice polished conclusion. So this show is definitely important to the disabled community. Let's talk a little bit about why. This show was definitely a great introduction to the upper echelons of society and how connections and how these people can navigate from one part of society to the other. It exposed how money and connections flow amongst the rich and how easy it is to fool or really to change one's physical appearance to fit a different perception, a certain persona, just by looking a certain way, talking a certain way, body language of a certain type of way. So I was truly grateful to see that exposure. And what this means, or what it could mean to the disabled community, and particularly those that may not be able to change the way one looks or talks, or even certain social circumstances where one may not be able to verbalize themselves the way they truly would like to, either because of a physical limitation, a mental limitation, or both, or lack of financial access or educational access. So it's easy, or could be seen as easier, for some individuals to be able to fit into society because they have the access to change themselves. And for those of us that are not able to, we do have to work twice as hard to get to fit in or change the way we're perceived. So it really brings up the question of where do we draw that line of living in one's truth but still taken or being perceived the way you would like to be perceived? Do we really need to stop judging people based on appearances? All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Courageous Carla, or Inventing Carla. Lastly, I would just like to say, I think many of us like those shows so much because we all have to sort of change ourselves. They say to fake it till you make it, or dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And how many of us have to change a part of ourselves to fit in? I know I have many times. So again, thank you so much for your time. Let me know some of the answers below. What do you think about this topic? Any topics you want me to go over soon? Any shows? Any moments in pop culture? Anything like that, please let me know. Well, this is Courageous Carla signing out. Please, if you like this content, like this video, answer some of the questions in the comments, share to your wonderful friends and family, and subscribe to grow this channel to see that lovely video in appreciation of you if you do subscribe. Or even if you don't subscribe, you can watch the video anyway. But please subscribe to grow this channel and to get some perks and merch eventually. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. Goodbye.